Recording in progress.
There we go.
I was just waiting for.
So this will work. Okay. I'm pointing to the computer versus the. All right, perfect. All right. Thank you for coming. I am going to share this morning about my recent trip to Nepal. The original plan was Nepal and India, but in much rich style. As I got into this, I'm like, we're not going to make it to India. Yeah, so stay tuned. So anyway, but it's there in case we do have time. So, but anyway, so definitely focusing on Nepal this time. I traveled there with Health Ed Connect, which is a non-governmental NGO that I work with. But per request from you, I'm talking basically about cultural aspects of the trip. This time around, I do want to share about some things going on with Health Ed Connect and digging more deeply about Health Connect and the work that we do. Probably in May is what I'm thinking. And there's a reason for that too. So anyway, I look forward to learning more about Health Ed Connect at that time. But this kind of helps give you context about why I was there. So that's it. So anyway, this picture, which you'll see again, but this picture is in Kathmandu. So, all right. So Health Ed Connect has been in Nepal for a very long time. And so every year or 2.5 years, we travel there to visit our site partners and to support them, provide training and other things for the things that they do. So that's why we were there. And you can see my little map about where Nepal is. And India is marked there because we were in the southern tip of India when we traveled there. But like I said, probably not going to get there. And I did take that picture out a plane window. Actually, I think literally I was leaning across somebody to take the picture. I did not know at the time that I was taking a picture of Mount Everest. So going back, and actually as we were talking on that trip, this was a flight from Kathmandu south to Biratnagar, which I'll show you a map in a minute. And was looking back through, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And I have been double and triple and quadruple checking pictures online, and then pretty sure that is Mount Everest right there. Locally, it is known as Sagarmatha. So, because Mount Everest is British white guy. So, anyway, so this is a map of Nepal and the locations where we were. So we flew into Kathmandu, but we literally flew in and then flew out the same day and left. And we traveled to Arankola and visited Chitwan National Park. So that's actually where our journey really started. And so we're going to start there in our talks today. And then we'll travel back up to Kathmandu. And then Biratnagar is where, down over on the border with India. And in all of these locations, we have volunteers. Although Arankola is just, we have just a couple of volunteers there. All right. So, Arankola. So I'm going to talk with you about our travel partners that we had. So, and it's all the white people you can see there. So we've got, let me see, this should point, right? Yay. Okay. So me, and then Emily Penrose McLaughlin. So she is our executive director. So I work with her daily. And then this is Thad Wilson. Thad is on our board. He is a nursing professor by trade. He's retired now. And then we have Michael Lewis. And Michael Lewis is also on our board. He's a lawyer by trade. Michael is very seasoned. This is his second time in Nepal traveling with Health Ed Connect, but he was coming off from a bunch of Asia travels and stuff too, so he's very seasoned. So it was the four of us And then I want to point out a couple more people. So this is Pinky Mala. Pinky is our Nepal coordinator. So you're going to see her in a lot of pictures as well. So she's kind of in charge of our Nepal programs. And then this is her husband, Binod. He actually works for the church. He's the Mission Center president for Community of Christ. So, so we were able to do that. And then this is their friend, Kirti. She also traveled with us. The rest of the people in this picture are family members in Arankola. And I bring them up because we got to visit this village, and they all live together in a multi-family unit. And then she's the matriarch of the family and a real gem. We could have sat and we had no idea what she was talking about, but we could have sat and listened to her talk for hours. So she was phenomenal. So anyway, this is the family, and this is their home. And so they lived on the bottom floor, and then upstairs on that top floor is like storage, and like they do laundry and things like that. So it's just kind of this open space. Actually, I take that back. On this one side is the matriarch, that grandmother. It's her bedroom. So everybody else is on the main floor. She's upstairs. So anyway, and then this is kind of far like barn area. So they grow in this area. These are subsistence farmers, and so they grow. This is millet. The pink flowers is millet, and then the yellow is mustard, and then they also grow rice. So this is their rice harvest that they showed us, which is a lot of rice. So, and these are the brothers there. So they're the farmers. They have water buffalo, the two. So they have the mama and the baby, and they have goats, all in this little shed. They're drying corn here. And I'm going to talk about this. So it's not just a pretty little setup in the middle of their yard. This family is Hindu. Hindu families will often have these kind of shrines in or around their homes. I'm going to talk more and dig in much more with the religious landscape in Nepal, but I wanted to talk about this in context. So it's called a puja thali, and thali actually means plate or tray, so they use it in a lot of different contexts. But in this case, it's set for worship of Lord Shiva, which is a principal deity in Hinduism. And the plate there, you'll see that it has different colors of powders in it. You can kind of see it a little clearer there, right? With talking about colors again, right? So with red and yellow and orange powders. These colors represent different things. So red symbolizes energy and strength. Yellow represents learning and wisdom. And orange means purity or spiritual quest. And it can also mean transformation. The small pots, the little brass pots, sorry, wrong way. They will, they hold like sacred liquid. It could be special water or milk, or other things that they might use for purification rituals. And then there's offerings. So all of the little plants and flowers, they might have rice or leaves. Those are all special offerings that they would include around here. And you can see it in through the plants, right? So you've got these things that are just laid out as special offerings. So all of the things in this area are intentional, and were there as kind of a offering to Shiva. Other things that it could include would be like oil lamps, or incense or a bell that could invoke the divine presence. So that could be other things that somebody might include. And I want to, hang on here. Do we have, oh yeah, I did put that one in here. I put this here because I want you, I don't know if you can see the dots on the forehead. So there's here, that look weird, and you can see here, you probably noticed it on the farmer. You'll see that on a number of Hindu people will have these on their foreheads as kind of a special blessing for the day. And I think, so this is not confirmed, but I'm pretty sure it is taken from these powders from that plate and from that tray, right? And so they're using that and they're going to put it on the head as a blessing for certain things. Again, like with the symbolism of the colors. All right. These are just some women that we actually our volunteers work with in the community, but you can see some of the hard work that people of all ages do, women end up having to do. And so I think she's doing some weaving here. All right, so that was our visit to Arancola in a nutshell. And one of the things that we got to do also is visit Chitwan National Park. And in order to get there, we had to cross this river by boat. And so there's a little, kind of a touristy little town on one side. We crossed over by boat. By the way, there are crocodiles in this river. Side note. And so this is how we crossed the boat with the guy with the stick getting us across. It was a nice, peaceful little journey. As he's pointing out the crocodiles down the way. And our crew, this is our crew, so these people should all look familiar, right? Like these are in our other photo. And that was, and that's the Jeep we did for our little safari. So the potential that we had on this trip, the safari, we could have seen white rhino, we did not. We could have seen Bengal tiger, we did not. Elephants also, we did not. So, but we did see some interesting things, and it was fun. And I have never been this is jungle, so genuine jungle. Really, I don't think I've ever been in the jungle, so a lot of views of this and or grasslands. And the grasses were very tall, so there probably were animals out there, we just couldn't see them, so there's that. But we saw peacocks, lots of peacocks. I gotta remember the name of this. Crested serpent eagle. A sloth bear, which they're actually vulnerable species around the world. And, a wild boar. Yeah. Can you spot it? Yeah? Yeah. So there's a sambar deer and some monkeys. These are actually Nepal gray langurs. Some other different kind of monkeys. These are the macaque monkeys. Can you see it? All right. Yeah, so it's a python. Now, it was pretty far away, so this was zoomed in, but. And we have axis deer or spotted deer. There's a lot of those little buddies around too. Huh? They're regular size. Those are full grown.
But they're generally small.
They are the size of a white-tailed deer. Yeah. They are the size of a white-tailed deer. Yes. Yeah. That's what I thought was pretty cool. All right. And more water buffalo. I just enjoyed this picture because they're standing around and then you got this egret right there. So anyway, actually this was in that little town area. So that was kind of our safari. So no fun large game or anything, but it was really cool to see a lot of different, just to spend time out and enjoying and appreciating nature and and seeing other things that I normally don't get to see. So it was good. All right. This is the town where we stayed, that town that we were right before in order to cross over to get to the national park was. So just some sights in the town. All right. You get to travel to Kathmandu. Things about Kathmandu, I forgot to look up the population actually right now, so I can't tell you how many people are there. Yeah, Matt, if you want to look at it real quick. But it's in a valley, so it's surrounded. You've got the Himalayas for sure on the one side of it, but then it's got foothills around it that really that keeps in fog and it keeps in pollution, so can make it very difficult to fly in and out of because it's in a valley.
800,000.
800,000. So yeah. These are just some sites and some general sites before I dig into some other things. I couldn't get over that what I thought was electrical wires at the time, but Matt has assured me those are telecommunications wires. But they're everywhere, and that's exactly what they look like. All over the place. So there's that. This also kind of gives you a glimpse as to, like, literally this is what the town looks like. Like, there's buildings everywhere, and there's a ton of traffic, mostly motorcycles and scooters. But we were able to get to some very ancient historic places as well. So these are just going to be some kind of the buildings, and you get a feel of it before I dig into some of the religious things. So you notice the wood carving on this building all around. And this building, it's kind of a cute one on the side, but this door literally is probably about this tall to get in. It was not a big door. And that was pretty common. And so very short doorways. Again, some of the places you can see some of the historic views. I'll talk about flags in a little bit. And yeah. Okay, so I want to give you a brief overview of the religious landscape, and then we're going to dig into some of this a little bit. So, things to realize about Nepal. It is 81% Hindu. Buddhism represents about 8.21% of the population. Islam is about 5%. Kirat Mundum, which I don't know, and I didn't take the time to look up. So, but that represents about 3%. And then Christianity makes up about 1.76% of the population. This was my first time traveling to a country that was not predominantly Christian. I learned a lot. And I was telling the kids last night, I'm like, I clearly needed to do more homework before I left. What I did, I had no clue really what I was traveling to. So it is very interesting because it's the first time I've been somewhere where there are some things I'm like, I have no context to understand what is going on right now. Like, even in Africa, most of the stuff I could pretty much comprehend what's going on, right? And I get a feel. I'm like, it's a really unsettling feeling to be like, I really, really don't understand this. And to to have that challenge was very interesting. But anyway, digress just a little bit. We're going to talk about Hinduism first. And I am not here to give a whole overview and go in depth on what Hinduism is, but I do want to summarize real quick. And we're going to talk about some of the historic sites and things that we're going to see. So Hinduism is one of the oldest world religions. It's the third largest in the world. And it did originate on this continent in India. And it stretches back over 4,000 years. Okay, so it's ancient. It is, you could argue that it's not necessarily a single unified religion, but a diverse kind of family of religions, or a way, kind of a way of life. It's polytheistic. They have about, I think, 33 primary deities with also minor ones as well. Okay, so polytheistic, so they've got a lot of different gods and things. So Hinduism, because of Hinduism has been in Nepal for thousands of years, dating roughly back to about 2000 BCE. There are historical records confirming its presence, along with the caste system, dating back to the 3rd century CE. And at that time, actually, Nepal wasn't even unified as a country, like it was a bunch of tribal regions. And Hinduism became the central state religion in the 1700s. So it was kind of the religion of Nepal in the 1700s. I'm going to talk briefly about Hindu temples. We're going to see some here. So in Kathmandu area alone, there are over 2,000 Hindu temples of varying sizes. So some of them are big, like the ones we're going to see. Some of them might be, we're going to see some of these too, some neighborhood shrines too. So kind of combining all of those neighborhood kind of shrines with the larger temples. There's probably over 2,000 of them. Okay, so very prevalent. Many of the temples are dedicated to different gods or different deities, and you can kind of see just different practices that people have when they go there. And so yeah, this is it. So this is the first Hindu temple that we went to. It's the Bag Bhairab Hindu temple. I noted Kirtipur is it's a really, it was its own kingdom before Kathmandu kind of grew up around it. But it's up on a hill, and it has a very long ancient history itself. And so this temple was dedicated to, I gotta say this right, Bag Bhairab, who actually is the incarnation of Shiva as a tiger, which is, Shiva is one of the most important, like I said, Hindu gods. And the date of this temple in its current form like this is around the 16th century, so 1500s. And then residents, people here, believe that Bag Bhairab protects their town. So it's kind of a protection. So you can kind of see the main building here. I can't remember. The ribbons are very symbolic as far as, I think, they honor special, special events that have been held there. And you can see we've got one of the shrines. This is this right here, part of the building. And you've got bells. People have done, you can see again the powders. The powders are made out of like turmeric and other things, natural things that make those colors. And so that's there, and the bells to kind of evoke the god. This is kind of an up close of the wood carvings around the edge, and they represent different gods. And I think this one's kind of funny because you get them peeking over the edge right here too. Yes. Yeah. I think there's been renovations, there's been renovations to kind of keep up and maintain things. Yeah. And yeah. So around, you have like kind of that main building that has all the tiers, and the tiers kind of, you'll see this one had how many tiers? This one had 3, right? We're going to see one that has, I think, 5 tiers. So the taller it is, the closer to God it is. Think about it that way. So they also have different shrines around it to other gods. So while that main one was to Shiva, this one, I think, was, a god of, there was one for sure that was like a god of like music and art, or a god, the gods that represent different things. I'm not sure what this one represented. There is an animal here, so that might be part of it. Here's a family here giving, lighting some candles in honor, kind of their worship. All right. Buddhism. So it is, what did I say, 8.21% of the population in Nepal. However, something that I actually did not realize is that Nepal is the birthplace of Buddhism. And so it goes back. So Buddhism it's from the very beginning, which is about 500 BCE is how long it's been in Nepal. And so while it is only 8% of the population, its presence is everywhere in Nepal. And I did a little research, because if you figure Hinduism's been there since, you ever take 2000 BCE, Buddhism's been there since 500 BCE. They have a long history in this country and together. And they have kind of, in the years like about 500 to 1200, there was a lot of tribal, in the fighting between trying to take territories and things. A lot of the religious aspects kind of merged. So there's a lot of like syncretism, some kind of combining of the religions, and they have come to a peaceful coexistence together. And I had one of my sources actually said that you might find even some combining in the temples of both religions, which explains why I'm like, so are we looking at a Buddhist? Now I understand the difference, right? But in the beginning, I'm like, is this Buddhist? Is this Hindu? What are we looking like? This is a temple. What are we looking at? Like, which religion? And so, but there's just this amalgamation of like this kind of merging of both kind of together in shared space. So Kirtipur, which is, I said, that ancient monarchy, we were at that Hindu temple. They also have this major Buddhist temple, or stupa. Stupa is a word for temple, Buddhist temple. And so it is very prevalent. This is a better view of that stupa. This is the Chilancho stupa. There is another bigger one. This is a major one, and it's old, but there's another, like, biggest one in the country, I think, is in another part of Nepal or Kathmandu, that we didn't get to. And so there has been a temple in this spot for probably since the 3rd century also. So it's been there a long time. That's not in this form. It was about in the late 1600s is when this was created in its form. And so, as with everything, it's all symbolic, right? Everything kind of has meaning. So we have this kind of gold part right here. I'm going to give it a little bit closer. That you have the eyes here. So so it's a square, and every time you walk around, it's going to have those eyes. So there's 4 sets of eyes looking in the cardinal direction. So north, south, east, and west. And those represent kind of this God's presence everywhere, or the Buddha's Buddhist presence everywhere, in all directions. And the eyes also represent wisdom, and symbolizing Buddha's compassion, and ability to see all things past, present, and future. So that's it. And you'll notice here, there's kind of like what they call it, a third eye. And you'll see some images I've seen with the eyes will have kind of more of an eye right here too, rather than just the dot. That third eye kind of represents spiritual awakening or higher consciousness. You'll notice this beehive-like thing with the rings. There are 13 rings, and they represent various Buddhist heavens. So most of the stupas you'll see will have this kind of little crown thing. And on the corner, I'm going to go back to this one, I think. No. No. Hang on. Well, on the corner, so you have kind of the main building, right? You have the main building, and then there's these. These are different symbols, like you have the bells to invoke Buddha's presence. You've got, I can't remember what this was, I was learned, and I can't remember what, it's a particular Buddhist symbol as well, and unfortunately, like I said, I can't remember what that is. And then we have this, and then over here you have these smaller shrines as well, and they represent 4 Devis, which I think those are teachings, or lesser Buddhas. So, anyway, let's get you can see some of the sites. You've got, this is another a Buddha, and then this is, I think, like for burnt offerings. So, you can just kind of see again, I'm not sure what that is. I can't remember. I know it does, doesn't it? But it's not, but it does. Like all curled up. I know.
Looks like 2 crowns with the ball.
Yeah. And in my, I just couldn't remember. Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. This is all part of the same area, though. Yes, so this is still the same stupa. This is still kind of in that temple area, and surrounding it. And really, the Buddhist, and I'll show you a community one, looks very similar to this one with the same this. And I learned also that with the Hindu temples, they usually have that main building and they have the tiers, right? Yeah. But there's some other, the smaller ones I've learned, like, so this, right? Again, this I learned, that's Hindu. Okay. And this is a smaller community shrine, and just kind of a neighborhood. Okay. And then you can also see that. Yeah. So, and this again is just in the community, walking along. We saw it. So, anyway, and we had a tour guide for this part of our journey, and we're all like, "Wow, what's this? Tell us more about this." He's like, I can't stop and talk about everything because we will never get anywhere. Like there are too many things to stop. There's too many. I mean, it's just everything is so old and symbolic and, just, yeah. So anyway, this actually helped me kind of work through some of this. And, but I do want to, let me see where we're at. We'll talk about the flags here. Or hang on. Yeah. Maybe I have another one. Nope. We're going to talk about Christianity in a minute. But I want to talk about the prayer flags. And you'll see some up here. So these are Tibetan or Buddhist prayer flags. You can, that word is kind of interchangeable. And like you've seen in the pictures, they're found everywhere, right? Strewn all across the roads, the streets. They're out in the wind. They're at the temples. And so if you you can just kind of look up here. Their colors, 5 colors of them. Red represents, they represent kind of the basic elements. So red represents fire, blue is like sky or space, green is water, yellow is earth, and white is air or wind. And it's believed that they're really designed to be hung outside. I mean, we can hang them in here, but the idea is that as they fade and fray in the wind, that it sends the prayers outward. And so that is what they are designed to do, the prayers and the blessings, to promote peace, compassion, and strength. And you don't have to be Buddhist to hang them, so it's okay that we have them in here. So yeah, that is kind of their meaning, is just kind of this positive sending out into the universe, peace, compassion, and strength. All right. I'm going to move on to Christianity. Are we good? Okay. So Christianity makes up 1.76% of the population. So which I found very interesting. I do think that this is in the whole country of Nepal, right? So these statistics are for the whole country. I think it might be a little skewed in places like Kathmandu and Biratnagar, where you've got bigger towns. And Christianity's presence is a little bit higher percentage-wise here in these places than they would be in the Himalayas and, all the other smaller areas of Nepal. But Christianity, this is a picture of our Community of Christ congregation there. We got to go to church while we were there. So Christianity has been in Nepal. It's had a presence in Nepal since, it's interesting, there's a date. So 1628, okay? And I'm sure that's when the first missionaries came. But it was basically, this is interesting, it was basically absent. It was expulsed. They were kicked out of Nepal, expulsed, for around 200 years. So, and so they had a ban from 1769 to 1951. And so, so that was, the Christianity started to re-establish itself after 1951 in Nepal. But there was about 200 years where it was not present. They were not allowed to be there. And also, anecdotally, kind of getting back to that syncretism kind of idea, I did, in talking with people, talking with them about Christianity and Hinduism, there's a number of people that, usually when people convert, they're converting from Hinduism to Christianity. But because Hinduism is also a part of their culture, it's a part of not just a religious belief, but it is a part of how they were raised, and it's just a part of their culture. So many of them are still kind of keeping some of those Hindu cultural things alive along with their Christianity. So it's kind of this syncretistic, kind of this meshing of those. And then Community of Christ's presence in Nepal, I had to ask a brief question. And so they have been in Nepal since about 2004. So a little over 20 years is how long they've been here. This is not their first building. I'll talk about that in just a minute. So this is a Community of Christ sign. I didn't get a picture in Nepal of the church building. So on the outside, just kind of inside stuff. But this is Community of Christ in Nepali. So, and our mission statement, we proclaim Jesus Christ and promote communities of joy, hope, love, and peace. They have posted the enduring principles right outside the building, or in the entryway to the building. So you can just see that in Nepali. And I want to talk about this for just a minute. So I mentioned earlier in passing that Nepal has a caste system. It's illegal, but still around. I think I don't know the year. It's been fairly recently where it's been outlawed, but yet it still culturally is kind of present, and which is the same in India, by the way. Probably actually more present in India. Like you can just kind of see it. We were more exposed to it in India than we were in Nepal, but it's definitely there in Nepal. And I bring this up here because Christianity, especially if you think about our enduring principles, all the things that we proclaim, it has a very powerful message for people of a lower caste. And so the caste system ranks people based on where they were born in their family and where they were born. So if you were born in a higher caste, you were kind of always a higher caste. It gives you status. For example, if you were born, there's communities that, maybe a business community, and most of the people in that area are going to be born into the business caste. And so they tend to, it's a middle to higher level caste, and they are going to be a little bit financially better off. And they're going to have a certain respect and status in the community. A person born of a lower caste has less respect in the community. If you were born in the Dalit caste, which is the absolute lowest caste, you are deemed almost kind of less than human, and it's deemed as having less worth. And so, and we really saw that come into play in India a lot, in where the church is present, actually. Not in us being able to provide ministry in those contexts kind of way, not in a encouraging people finding a place where they are valued, they have worth of all people, where all are called. We have all of these things where we are saying you have worth and God loves you no matter what. Okay, so this message, though, you can see how it might not play well to those who have power, which I think, while at the time they wouldn't have had, this would not have been a community of Christ, but I think this is what was going on when Christianity got expulsed from Nepal, is because the teachings of Christianity were going counter to the caste system and the power structures that were at play in the country. So kind of keeping that context in mind, we have a real strong message to those who are struggling in life, right? And that's just kind of like what it is here. So yeah. Here's a picture of our worshiping congregation. And you'll notice all along here we have all of our sacraments, the sacrament pictures. So I mentioned Binod. Binod is the pastor of this congregation. He's also the Mission Center president. And his wife, Pinky, who we saw in the context of Health Ed Connect. She's our coordinator, but she also is a worship leader in Community of Christ. So this is their band. So they had a full-on band. And we'll see if the video plays. So this is just kind of during worship. They start with choruses, like probably about half an hour of just singing praise songs. And then we actually got an order of worship here in Nepali and English. Otherwise they'll have kind of the normal sermon and prayers and things like that. And I think I have just a short video clip from singing. So let's see. So one thing that is really interesting being in this culture, and for those who are musicians, it's a different musical structure as well. It's not this. That's not the Western music style. India, by the way, had a very kind of similar sound that sometimes to our ears doesn't sound as good as what we think it should. But yeah, I think it's just what we're accustomed to, right? And how we are used to hearing it. And so it took some getting used to. But it was good. It was cool. So Thad spoke while we were there, and we had a little friend that was very fascinated with him. So the church, this particular building is 4 stories, and the worship is on the main level. And then you go up to the next level, and actually Pinky and Binod live there right now with their son, their 9-year-old son. There's like kind of living quarters there on the 2nd level. The 3rd level there's meeting room space, classrooms. And then the 4th level, there's outdoor seating, but they have like a container garden and other things up on the main thing. And so this is the view. And I just wanted to note that, in a city like this, rooftops were prime space. So everywhere we went was multiple levels with rooftop dining, with rooftop. You can see somebody's got their garden over there. There's water tanks in this one. But they are using all the space and using it for different things. So. But this just kind of gets you a little bit of view. You can kind of see the mountains in the background. Yeah, right there. Again, smog, pollution. Now I will say, so all the little carts in Nepal, like you get the little scooters where they carry people around, and they're all electric actually now, versus India, which were all motorized with gas engines. The ones in Nepal, every one that we saw was electric. One of the other things that we got to do while we were there is go to a wedding. So that was a little bonus. The wedding was actually a church. It was a Community Christ wedding. The groom is Community of Christ, and the bride is Hindu converting to Christianity, and so her family was all Hindu. And then you have all the church members. There's they have about 200 church members in Kathmandu. And we met the groom, and the intent was to meet with the groom and then travel with him to the wedding site. The wedding was an outdoor wedding, about 500 people in attendance. So very large. It was at a country club, very posh. In this regard. So it was a very, very big wedding. So we did not stand out as much as we feared we might, being invited to this wedding of people that we don't know. So, but it was good. So this is like I said, this is the groom. He's the church member, and then this is the bride. And just kind of you can see, and they got a couch they can sit in right up front, nice and comfy. And yeah, it is very huge. And then the band was there too, so they got to play. We did our normal choruses, so and singing. And my favorite, I love watching the drummer. She's awesome. All right, so Emily got invited to offer a prayer, the closing prayer. For that. And this is just, you can see, again, you have these flags, this was part of the country club walking to the reception. It was really interesting. We were chatting with some of the bride's family at the reception, and this was the first Christian wedding they had been to, so it was kind of interesting for them and to participate in that and to be a part of that. So, so that's the wedding experience. And then we were able to go to Bhaktapur, Durban town. So this is another former kingdom, but that, Kathmandu grew up around it, right? But it was its own kingdom. At the same time, Kirtipur was its own kingdom. This is a UNESCO historic site, heritage site, and so we got to do a tour of that. But there's 82,000 people that live here in this town, and it's this older town. Durban is a town square, and so this is the town square. Let me see. I got to get caught up with my notes here. This is considered the cultural capital of Nepal, and dates back to, it used to be the capital city for all of Nepal for a short 300-year stint back in 12th to 15th century. So ancient city, and yeah, most of the people here, of course, are Hindu or Buddhist. There would have been this kind of market. This would have been market space. So there's, I think, this side there's like schools and things like that in this town square. These were also in the town square, so you can see these Hindu relics. So on the right, so this is the Vatsala Durga temple, sometimes also known as the barking dog temple because the bells sound kind of like a barking dog. So this is like the 16th or 17th century. This is a picture of the goddess Durga slaying the buffalo demon. So she has 18 arms, each holding a different weapon or symbol of power. So there we are. So are these Hindu or Buddhist? Yeah. Actually, I say that. This is Hindu. This is a pavilion. It's actually an 8-sided pavilion that, or 8-cornered, I should say. And it used to receive royal guests. So it was just kind of a festival area. But this one has, you can see the stone statues as guardians up to the temple. So outside of that town square, this is kind of just city life going on in the same area. This is still all part of that UNESCO heritage site. It's all the market space, people trying to sell stuff, but then just living. This is the Hindu temple I was thinking of. So this is another square within that whole area. So, yeah, you can just kind of see, I can give you a little bit of history, but it just kind of gets overwhelming. But these are ancient Hindu temples. And this one is the one I was telling you about that has 5 stories. Yeah. Yeah. As a UNESCO site. Oh, when they laid the bricks. Back in, actually the history of this space dates back to 8th century. Yeah. Now, it's been, like renovated and not, right. But this began as a, yeah. And it would have had, I think, the area would have had originally walls around it to protect it because it was a kingdom. This whole area was a kingdom. But those are not there now. So pottery this is a specialty in this particular area. So you would see a lot of pottery. And there's actually a particular square where all the pottery artists gathered to make their pots in a very traditional kind of way. So back in 2015, there was a big earthquake in Nepal. And it was definitely a defining moment. Like, even in conversations with people and talking about things, everything was benchmarked by that earthquake. It was a 7.8 earthquake that impacted. So it was, I think, in the epicenter was like in the mountains. I think they said, 50 kilometers from Kathmandu. But that, I mean, it was such a large earthquake that it greatly impacted everything. So a lot of buildings had to be rebuilt. So like even heritage sites, some had to be rebuilt. But yet you still see the effects of it just walking down. And this was just walking down the street, right? So I'm walking down the street, you walk by this, and then, and then you look over and there's like a brand new renovated place. Like they are still, 11 years later, they are still dealing with the effects from it and its impact. So, all right, we're going to travel to Biratnagar. I see the time now, thank you. This will be quick. I know. So anyway, this is because I wanted to get into the religious history stuff, that's that. Biratnagar, we got to visit some homes while we were there. So these are going to be just some images from homes and families that we visited, kind of the compound. This is the family that was there. This is Sangeeta. She is our coordinator in Biratnagar. So we work with her directly. She's actually a licensed nurse, works full-time, and then when she's not working, she is visiting people's homes, really. And so she is doing what she does and loves. And this family was a joy. We had 3 generations here. This woman suffered a stroke, and she, over time, Sangeeta cared for her, provided care. And she was able to get mobility back. But one of the side effects, which was really interesting, is that when she starts laughing, she can't stop, which laughter is contagious, right? So, and she was so tickled that we were at her home that she just started laughing. And then she would just keep going because then we're all laughing, right? And so then it stopped. And then periodically, we were there for a while because they were making us food and everything else. So we were there for a while, and sometimes she would just look over at us and just start laughing. And so we're just all laughing together, and it is one of my joy-filled stories from this time. So this is their home, and we were trying to take a picture, and they couldn't stop laughing. So. And this is a cook stove. We actually Help I Connect provided this vented cook stove, which uses kindling to feed the fire, which is a lot cheaper. This is a traditional cook stove here. Typically they would use cow dung, and it would create a lot of smoke inside. And you can see kind of the darkened roof of this. So this cook stove vents the smoke out the window. So, and we're going to chalk this up to one of those things that I had no idea, and I could not comprehend what this was. It was like a 3-story lighted up thing where we were, and there's loudspeaker, somebody's talking to Nepali, and I'm like, what the heck is this? And so we went on a walk, and I'm like, what is this? And then we are like seeing all these people, and we're like, what? And there was a tent that was the size of a house, and there were cushions on the floor covering it, and I'm like, what are we looking at? I have no idea. And it was very unsettling. And then we got back to our hotel, and I'm like, what was going on with that? I asked the desk staff, and they're like, oh, I think that's probably it's a celebration for the God of knowledge. Okay, so there we go. Yeah. Anyway, and this is my outfit. Our friends, Pinky and Kirti, went shopping for Emily and I and picked out our clothes. So So that's it. I'm done. Only 5 minutes late. We would have never got to India. So here we are. Thank you for listening to me ramble on. So, and my knowledge or lack thereof of what we were saying. So. A little bit of story, a little bit of history, a little bit of religion. Yeah.
You mentioned About scarves.
Oh, thank you, Mom. Yes. So I have scarves up here. So every time, one of the welcoming things for guests is that you would be given a scarf. So we go to church. Actually, that was probably this one. Part of the ceremony is giving us a scarf. We go to, the wedding. They gave everybody a scarf. And like, so everywhere we went, we would get scarves as kind of a welcoming of the guests. So this is, that's what these are for. So yes. And then Matt's hat. It's a traditional Nepali hat. Put it on in front of everybody. Yep. Yeah. And they're everywhere. So this isn't one of those traditional ones where they don't wear it. Like, it's usually older gentlemen in particular will wear these. But yeah. So I had to get Matt one because he collects hats. So.
And I'm old.
You're old. So anyway, there we go. I think that's all my cultural things. So, thanks again.